right, we're talking about Mother, May I Sleep with Danger 2016 on Kill by Kill After Dark. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet troll pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Collegeburg, USA. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, but it's After Dark, where we watch an erotic thriller in the hopes that a teen lesbian's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we might make at her expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust, that if I'm going to serve homemade pie that I bought in a store with dinner, she will make sure I turn on the oven. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I'm good, but I would really love to be a fly on the wall in the homes and cars of our listeners when they hear you say, "Mother, may I sleep with danger?" And they're like, "Eh?" And you say 2016, like, oh.
Again, I gave you the, like, if we're going to talk about this, we can talk about the original. I believe your response was,
Pretty much.
I don't think the first one had any great shakes, but at least this one is bizarre.
But like it is described, Lifetime themselves describes it as a cult classic, which I don't know if you could, if the network that makes something can describe it in those terms, but I feel that when you think of Lifetime movie, that's one of the ones that comes to people's minds.
True, because people associate it with Lifetime. It reran on Lifetime, but it originally aired on NBC. So it was really at the very tail end of TV movies like that, making it to air. I know that you've kind of covered some on your website in the past, the three Buttafuoco murder movies were kind of in that tail end as well.
Yes. Yeah. The Amy Fisher movies. Yeah.
Yeah. So when this was announced, it somehow passed me by.
I never heard of it until you said, "Oh, what about the 2016 version?" I'm like, okay.
But somehow we saw it in the guide of our DirecTV when this originally aired. And we're like, oh, well, this is something that we need to watch because that just sounds ridiculous. And then we started watching it, and about halfway through, I'm like, Beck, I never really thought that I was going to sit down for an evening and watch softcore lesbian vampire porn with you.
Did you put that in your like shared moments couples journal?
Yes, I scratched that box off of the magnet that we have on our refrigerator of all the things we do as a couple. Went to France, watched softcore lesbian vampire porn. Oh, man alive. And at the time, James Franco perhaps did not have the best reputation. It would only go downhill from there. And I don't have to say allegedly, because he paid these people off and admitted it to a newspaper that he was basically sexual misconduct. He was running an acting school and he pressured young women into having sex with him, or at least something approaching sex with him. All of it was shitty. He lost lots of friends. Hopefully he'll lose a lot of his career. And somehow, when that was all going on, he was also proposing this to Lifetime and getting the lead guitarist of the Smashing Pumpkins to do the soundtrack for it.
This was in like a stage where he was just, in addition to, because he's another one of those actors where it just wasn't enough for him to just be extraordinarily good looking.
Yeah.
He also had to go back to school for like multiple degrees. And then he was kind of quirkily ironic things like doing a stint on General Hospital.
Yes.
After he had already become famous. Whereas, the soap opera thing is something you do that's like in your early part of your career.
That's how you start your career.
Right. There's no shame in it, but that's not something that people generally do after they've already, quote unquote, made it.
Right.
And then he wrote a terrible book that people said, oh well, it's it was it passed off as, well, it was deliberately terrible. I love that. I love when people get, as a writer who's been struggling, as a would be considered a struggling writer for about the past 25 years. I like when people like Sean Penn, for instance, and James Franco get publishing contracts for just basically writing something that has all the depth of a grocery list. and then when you criticize it, it's like, oh well, it was an art project. It was deliberately bad. And then he pitched a Lifetime movie, because why not? It's just so droll.
And he receives a credit as television story, which, to be honest with you, I don't think I've seen past 1965. That is not a credit very many people get.
He has a small part in it, which I don't even think the character has a name.
Right.
And is absolutely superfluous to the plot. And yet when you look at the copy art for this, he's right there, right in the front. He would look like that. He would appear to be the main character.
Yes.
The danger of the title, if you will.
Right. As if Tori Spelling was going to be asking her now 65-year-old mother, may I sleep with danger, that danger being James Franco, as our heads bob in this sea of blood. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And get used to that, because what the fuck is going on here is in question constantly, and one of the most erratic and odd bouillabaisse. It's a cosmic stew.
To put it in its most simple terms, and I think we described Veronica in the same way.
Sure, yeah.
This is very much James Franco's personal masturbation folder.
Yes. This is Tarantino's feet all the way.
Yeah,
has to be.
You've got goth girls. Which makes no sense, because this is presumably in the present, and they're all dressed like The Craft.
Yes,
they got the chokers, they've got the baby doll dresses, they've got the leather pants, and it's like, okay, nobody dresses like that anymore. Certainly not. Of course, it's vampire lore. They're probably supposed to be like hundreds of years old, whatever. They go in no way into the lore of these vampires.
None of that shit is explained.
Where they come from, how old they are. None of that is bothered with. That's not explained at all. Let's just assume that they are older than they look. Chronologically, but also like they are dressing in a way where they should be standing out. Like everybody should be just noticing them immediately, and nobody seems to.
Yeah, because they're constantly walking in formation, like they're members of Cobra. I don't know how they're not attracting attention.
You've got that very much that big in 90s teen movies. Mean Girls, walking in slow motion through the high school hallway. That apparently that shot made a very big impression on young James in the 90s.
Yeah, he's just like, this is what I want. This is what I want.
That happens about 9 times in this movie.
It should be noted that he's not the director per se of this motion picture. Melanie Atkinhead is listed as the director. And if you're wondering, well, what else has she directed? And the answer is nothing that I'm aware of. Or the internet is aware of. So it's not just me. And that is not to say, I don't know who could have made sense out of this weird concoction of masturbatory fantasy and the desperate need to show the drama of college theatrics. I just...
This is the second movie we've covered in which a college production of Macbeth is a focal point. Yeah. Oh wait, no, it wasn't Macbeth. But,
no, it was a Greek play.
Right. Felt like Macbeth.
Still
very dramatic.
It's still very dramatic, but an infinitely better production in every way, shape, or form than what happens in this.
You didn't have the characters decide to do some sort of what was that MTV The Grind, like sort of like interpretive sexy dance to a monologue from Macbeth.
Yeah, nothing is sexier than Shakespeare monologues from college thespians.
Also, Patrick, you and I both were drama kids.
Absolutely.
I think you probably took a little further than I did. I stopped around college.
I probably should have stopped before then, but yes.
How well of an audition would you have been able to manage if someone was basically fondling you while you're on stage in front of people?
It took a lot of convincing for anyone to fondle me in private. Now, to then take that and go, you know what? I think the best idea is I start doing this monologue. No, I haven't memorized it. I'm going to read it off the page, because that's what college auditions do for sure. That's what you do that with sides when you're auditioning for a soap commercial, not a theatrical production. But also while I'm doing that, grab my dick a bunch. Like that.
Just get on up there.
Get on up there. This movie also has the fucking balls and temerity, all right, to posit that this girl gang of vampires, in order to just get this one girl swapped in, all right, they not only are hovering around her constantly in formation, but audition for a play.
In a college that they don't attend. They just hang around the campus.
4 random girls, 3 of whom audition to be witches in this play specifically so they can fondle this one girl they want to be in the coven, but leave it to this 4th satellite member to do all the work on.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. You're probably, again, you might have been excited to hear us say we were going to be covering Mother May I Sleep with Danger. And then you hear us mention vampires, and you might be thinking, no, that this has, other than featuring Tori Spelling in a completely different part.
Yeah.
Also mostly superfluous, and she's about as terrible as you could expect.
Every time the camera just focuses on her in a mid close-up, I just burst out laughing. She seems so out of place in a place that she should feel perfectly normal in.
She's astonishingly miscast as a conservative wine mom. Who, tries to look stunned when her daughter in 2016 tells her she's a lesbian.
Yes.
She just, tries to look shocked like she's never heard of such a thing. And again, Tori Spelling, about our age, maybe a little younger.
Yeah, somewhere in that vein, yeah.
But yeah, this is not a remake. It had nothing to do with the original movie. It's just James Franco said, hey, remember Mother May I Sleep with Danger? Sure you do.
What if it was teenage vampire lesbians in college and they auditioned for the play?
Yeah. And the vampire aspect is, that's within the first 5 minutes. And to me, it's a complete up. Now, I don't recall when this came out. I mean, it may have been announced and people were like, oh, there's James Franco being quirky again. But I don't think I followed it with any sort of interest or anything. So I don't know if the vampire aspect was promoted as part of when it was being getting commercials and all,
right? But
I feel like this is the opposite of From Dusk Till Dawn, which right. I have a very strong memory of going to see From Dusk Till Dawn with a bunch of friends, and now the trailers for that very much promoted it as a horror movie with vampires.
Yeah.
It takes about 45 minutes before it gets anywhere near vampires.
Yeah.
If anything, I wish that they hadn't promoted it as being vampires, it's involving vampires, because what a wonderful little zag on the audience that would have been.
Exactly. But, it's a crime thing. They're going to start shooting, but you don't know why. And you assume there's just like a siege picture where these 2 criminals on the run get caught just below the border and they have to fight their way out. And that would have gotten me to the theater.
Right. So one of my friends in the group was very irate, and at about minute 52 leans over to me, because apparently it was my idea to go see this thing, And it says, I thought you said there's a vampire movie. And I just sort of like looked at him like, yeah, just the commercial said. You know? And then Salma Hayek turns into a vampire and, tears out Quentin Tarantino's throat. We were all right again.
Yeah. Everything's cool. And now we're in a vampire movie.
But yeah, whereas, the way this, this is a vampire movie is sort of announced. It sort of feels like one of those false openers that we see a lot in movies we cover where it seems like this is a movie and then you realize, oh wait, no, this is a movie that the characters are watching. But no, this is a prologue that shows how this girl's turned into a vampire, and then she in turn falls in love with another girl and continues the cycle.
Yes, and has probably the first time. I usually Lifetime movies have this preamble, and then it says sometime later, and it's usually 8 to 9 months. But here it has. Once again, feeling its oats. It goes 5 years later. That's right. Before Endgame did it, Mother May I Sleep with Danger pulled that particular move. After this initial sequence in which a girl tells another girl, I love you. I want to be with you. Here's a ring. Oh, by the way, I'm a vampire. I'm going to put my teeth in your neck. No, they're not vampires. They're Nightwalkers. That's right, because vampires are copyrighted, right?
Yes, exactly. like werewolf and zombie.
This movie decides to throw vampire lore under the bus. And hey, I don't fucking care. I don't go to a vampire movie to abide by a strict set of rules. Whatever you establish the rules are, that's fucking fine.
It's I like I said, this is something that again, James Franco didn't write this, but his stink is all over it. And
he didn't write it, but he definitely dictated it to somebody.
Right. It's written by a woman, directed by a woman, but it's very male gazy.
Yes.
But also
Steve Miner looks at this movie and goes, wow, that's a lot of butts.
Right. Like there's a lot of butts, there's a lot of exposed tummies. Yes. The heroine, her shirts never fit properly. Her pants are sagging and her shirts are too short.
Somehow her pants begin at her upper thighs. I didn't think that was possible, and yet this movie posits that it is.
And again, in 2016, that was not a look that you were seeing a lot of young women wearing anymore. That was a very 90s thing.
With particularly the pants are a 2006 thing.
Yeah, the Paris Hilton very low, low cut pants. And like this is like his little, like I said, these are very much male things that are kind of plucked from hitherto, from one decade or another. It doesn't really matter. None of this matters. To create visual interest, because they know that the audience for this isn't actually, contemporary teenage girls. No. I don't know who the audience of this is beyond James Franco. It's men who still, fantasize about that, goth girl they liked in high school or college. That, they wouldn't have minded seeing her make out with girls as long as she made out with them too. Yeah. So the opening of the movie, and I'll put that in dick fingers. We meet Pearl. Her parents are out and her girlfriend comes over and she's like, I'm going to take pictures of you. And then she gives her a ring and then she goes, I love you. And it's not just Witchboard where people don't react to the words, I love you. Where they react badly, because it happens here too, where she's like, I like you a lot. I definitely want to get in your pants, but I don't know. I love you is where I need to go. And then there's biting happens and blood happens. And Pearl goes, oh, I'm a vampire. I stake you in the heart just as a base reaction. And then she runs for her life into the forest where we hear, and I shit you not, a werewolf howl. Now,
I confronted this a little bit on the idiot, inside the idiot box with my old pals. And we watched a Nancy Drew Hardy Boys mystery in which they went to Castle Dracula. And every time you had an exterior shot, there was a werewolf howl. 16 in all by the time it was over. And I thought I might be in league with that here. Luckily, it doesn't so much continue to happen.
You might be hoping that at some point, like this pack of sexy teen vampires runs into a pack of sexy teen werewolves. Nope, nothing that cool happens here.
No, that would be awesome. But
well, no, that would be Twilight, which this movie very much does not want you to think it's trying to be.
Yeah, Twilight is so stupid, whereas this movie is not Twilight, baby. And if you're like, well, Twilight has a legit plot. Whether you care for it or not is up to you, but
also Twilight is quite happily made for a teen girl audience, where this is not.
No, absolutely not. So Pearl, once she realizes that she's in desperate need of blood, here comes the DoorDash for blood. The Bobo cast of The Craft just drops a boy off in the woods. And then 5 years later, we are in dire close-up of Ivan Sergei, who's another returning cast member of the original Mother Mary Sleeping Danger.
He was the danger of the title.
He was the danger. So dangerous. And he's turned into an even more dangerous thing, a professor, a teacher, something James Franco also fashioned himself to be. And we know how that turned out. But this lame-ass Twilight debate that they're having, I'm sure in their minds they're like, ooh, we're really breaking the seal on the fact that horror and queerness is new and revolutionary. And you're like, well, I certainly don't want to hear about it from Ivan Sergei. Seems like a nice enough dude. Like, I'm happy he's getting worse work and everything, but I'm happy he's getting worse. Sorry, my friend. You're not my friend, but I wish you no ill will. We all take work to pay for our houses. Twilight is not about teen sex. It is about a vampirism that is devoid of it. It's without a sexuality to it. Vampires are known for inserting for fluids, and now blood doesn't have a driving factor. It's scent. It's, how do I put this so that people will understand the Mormonism of it all? It's the soaking of vampire stories. So we get a podcast joke, which is great. I mean, what kind of shitty podcast started in 2016?
I know,
not a good
right?
one, that's for sure.
Fucking embarrassing.
Oh my God.
What it is.
Gross. Just the grossest. I believe this is when you texted me the following quote. These outfits the vampire girls are wearing are killing me. They look like Jim Henson's craft babies. Which is a good joke. Like, that needs to be in here. Like, we can't fucking forget that.
I mean, if you miss the days of trying to struggle to put on a choker before going out and hoping you hook up with somebody so you can make out to them to Smashing Pumpkins Gish
Groaning.
or the single soundtrack. Or to Whole Celebrity Skin.
Yeah, that's another one.
This is the movie for you.
Yes,
a lot of crushed velvet.
Yes, a lot of flouncy dresses,
a lot of fake corsets.
Yes.
I'm not saying I don't love the outfits. They just remind me of the shit I wore 25 years ago.
They are weirdly out of place, but not so out of place that you feel like, oh, this is a throwback. It's just everyone is wearing a different era of outfit for no particular reason.
It is somebody associated with this movie finds this type of clothing very sexy, and that somebody is probably Professor James Franco.
Speaking of Professor James Franco, his performance here in the audition scene, get used to it. My suggestion for everyone, if you are going to watch this movie, it's about an hour and 25 minutes long. My suggestion to you is to write down when you think at what minute you're going to see James Franco stand up. Now you think, well, come on, I've seen James Franco stand up before. Well, not in this movie. He's contractually obligated to remain seated until one scene in which he stands, and then he sits back down again. So
like, even my favorite part is towards the end of the movie when the vampire girls give up all pretenses of just, going undercover, I guess, to be in this play. And our lead girl, Leah, is that her name?
Yes. Yes, it is.
She runs off. They run after her in the middle of doing the play.
Yes.
Because these vampire girls are so, are such professionals and so dedicated to keeping a low profile that they not only audition to be in this play, to keep an eye on her, I guess. Yeah. They also show up to be in the play.
Right.
But in the middle of it, they all leave. And James Franco, who is the director of the play, just sort of is like, hey, where are you going? And that's it.
Hey, where are you going? Also, Tori Spelling is like, Leah, as she runs up the aisle. Like, yeah, maybe that's part of the play. You don't know. Just sit down, Tori Spelling. But no. So yeah, I don't understand how this group of Nightwalkers audition for a local college production of Macbeth, and then somehow that equals $, but $ is Leah joining their girl gang. I fucking don't understand.
For some reason, and maybe I missed it, I don't know, it's extraordinarily important that Leah be brought into this fold.
Yes.
I think she's been designated to join for some reason. It's never actually explained.
And we're never given a reason why she should.
And they're of course, and they're on the kind of college campus where, there's a weight limit to get accepted to the school. And maybe it's a college/modeling agency at the same time. So they have their pick of extraordinarily attractive young women that they could bring into their vampire coven. But for some reason, it's got to be Leah.
It's got to be Leah, because to wear the kind of pants that she does, you have to get 2 haircuts. That's a callback, ladies and gentlemen.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so there's this one kid who also auditions, and we see his audition, and he should not be a lead. But he's so freaked out that his role has been swiped out from underneath him by 2 girls groping one another while reading directly from the script that he leaps directly to homophobia. Also, they're not great actors, and neither is he. No. So
this is some slim pickings that they cast this production of Macbeth from.
Meanwhile, at the stately manner of Tori Spelling, when she shows up and the camera focuses on her for a brief minute, I thought, is that the ghost of Cesar Romero? Because there's a weird thing where the amount of lip filler has given her the impression of a mustache. Now, she does not have one. But it almost looks like Cesar Romero's Joker, where they painted over his mustache because he refused to shave it off. But it's her face. And I don't want to make fun of her face. I think she is lit badly. It is a lighting problem here.
No, all the lighting is reserved for the frequent making out scenes between Pearl and Leia. So, let's jump right to that.
Yeah.
Like, this is for a Lifetime movie. This is surprisingly racy.
It is so much making out that it's like daring you to believe lesbians exist.
Yeah, there's no nudity, but there's a lot of making out.
No nudity as I've ever seen a Lifetime.
There's a lot of grinding. So I mean, if you're interested for that, hey, you know what? It's a gold mine.
Yeah, God bless. I mean, the thing that really turned my head, and when I watched it originally, and even here, is the fingering from behind with real motion happening. Now, I don't mean to say this as a prude, like, oh, I refuse to, like, I'm somehow grossed out by that. Nothing of the kind. It's just that it's not what you're expecting from a Lifetime sex scene. it's just so much more graphic that you're like, did I change the channel to Cinemax? Because that's the way it comes off. Again, I don't have a problem with sex in movies, everyone. I'm not that much of a square, but I was surprised at how much scissoring and fingering is really directly implied in this made for cable movie.
That's supposed to be, I guess it's supposed to be kind of campy. I don't know. Nobody knows what campy means anymore.
Campy just for some people it's like intentionally bad, and that's not what camp is, everyone.
And I'm tired of the discourse on that because nobody knows what it means anymore.
It's lost meaning because the ideas are taken out of the creators of camp and designated by other people who have a passing idea of what it is. So is this camp? If it's intentional badness, this movie is not as gloriously intentionally bad. It just makes wild fucking decisions. It's just more of a bonkers TV movie. It's just bonkers.
It's a movie that presents a lot of questions that it does not even attempt to answer. Right. But also it does it in a way where, well, why would you want to know that? That's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, why does it matter, where these vampires come from and how their hierarchy works? Like, well, it kind of matters that, it raises the stakes. It makes it more interesting. Can you kill them in the traditional manner? Are they afraid of crosses? I mean,
yeah.
But they barely have names.
No, you asked me in the chat, like, is this vampire's name? I'm like, I don't know. And the internet doesn't know. So it's very hard to tell you.
They're interchangeable. They all look like they could be like sisters, which I guess is intentional. I don't know. But there's a the movie, at times it suggests that nobody really notices them. And then there's this epilogue that just negates the entire premise of the movie.
If it matters to Pearl that they say you got to turn this vampire, then I need to know why it's so fucking important.
Why is it important? Why does it have to be her?
Right.
But then at the end of the movie, they're all torn up. One of the girls is literally missing both of her eyeballs. And they're still going and they're walking into college parties and just like grinding up against people, and nobody notices this. Yeah. But is it one of those things where are they doing, is it some sort of, mind trickery? Well, then say that. Show them doing something like that earlier in the movie, because you have to give me a reason why nobody notices that one of these people has half their face ripped off.
Yeah, I mean, they're describe themselves as Nightwalkers, yet they walk around in the middle of the day. Not a fucking problem. They also photograph well. So there's another thing out of it. We don't know. I assume a stake to the heart kills them because the one vampire appears to die, but then Pearl takes the stake, as it were, out, which in some vampire movies would mean that person can get up and walk around again, but they sustain damage. They walk around without, like, if you put on your bingo card for this episode, there's going to be some eye gouging and someone's throat is going to be fucking ripped out. That happens in this movie. Like, it's out of nowhere and the rules make no sense. And Tori Spelling should be a vampire at the end of this, given the rules they show, but she doesn't show up again. I was waiting for her to be leading the pack of vampires, but no, the date rapist now appears to be the head vampire, which is baffling as a decision.
Right, because the whole premise of this movie up to this point was that it was some sort of wank girl power thing.
Yeah.
Where these vampire girls get together and they pick off victims, and I guess the joke is this is why they hang around college campuses all the time.
Right.
They go to college parties and find dudes who are in the middle of date raping someone, drag him away and kill him, which apparently, I guess the rash of murders that take place on this college campus, this is never mentioned. Like you don't even see any kind of, scene of anybody on the news about like, a serial killer on campus.
If there's no plot broadcasting network,
right? If they're going to different college campuses and doing it, that's unclear. But this is how they feed, apparently, by finding these terrible dudes and killing them and I guess that's cool. But then
to mangle a meme format, they girl boss too close to the grave.
Right. And then, but at the end of the movie, like the head vampire is this guy who is mad because Leah doesn't want to go out with him because Leah's a lesbian.
Yeah.
which I don't know, if I was a dude, that'd be a pretty good reason for someone to turn me down if I asked her out on a date.
Yeah, like it's not me, it's that you don't find any male attractive. Hey, go with God.
I literally don't have what you want.
I'm not bringing to the table anything you would want. I still find you attractive, but I'm gonna have to put that in a little box and label it misguided. As Ivan Sergey says at one point in his constant lecture on the movie, it's a form of misguided heterosexuality, as if there's any other kind.
I mean, here's a couple. If I had written this movie and slap my hand and take away my laptop if I did, there are so many ways that this could have taken the camp aspect and written it into glory.
Yeah.
And that is, make people aware that something's going on, for one thing. Make people, go for a little bit of that Scream-esque, people are kind of, freaked out, but still trying to, enjoy the college experience at the same time. Because people are being murdered on this campus, and no one is, it's never mentioned. Nothing ever comes of it.
It's almost as if the movie has a ceiling on speaking characters. And so as they went through the script, they're like, well, you're going to have to take out all this reaction to what is actually happening because we can't pay for these people to talk. So everyone else is mum. You just watch them drain a guy of blood, which appears to be carbonated, which I found odd. I'm not entirely sure that blood is carbonated, but maybe he's had a lot of hard seltzer. Who can say? And then Tori Spelling begins to act like Nightwalker, New Mexico mom ranger, and just constantly seek out in the middle of the night like Batman, what is happening with my daughter?
Oh, well, I love that, the reason, obviously, the first thing that she's concerned about is that her daughter's a lesbian.
Yeah, very concerning.
But then this kid, Bill, whatever the hell his name is.
Bob.
So, he's upset that Pearl, you threw him over, even though he never appeared to have a chance with her in the first place.
No.
For this girl, Pearl. So he calls Leah's mom, and in the most unconvincing phone conversation I've ever heard in my life says, that girl Pearl she's been going out with, she does bad things.
She's into bad stuff.
And Tori Spell's like, my God, all this one doofus who calls her, her college friend Bob. Who, as best as I can tell, has not ever actually met her. That Leah has only mentioned him in passing, and for some reason, Tori Spelling has assumed that this is the person that Leah's going to bring home to meet her, but it's not. It's Pearl. Entirely on this guy's word, Tori Spelling has decided, well, you're not to see that girl anymore.
Right, and listen, I speak from personal experience. Nothing gets girls hotter than telling on them to their moms. They love it.
That will definitely get her to go out with you, Bob.
100%.
Renounce her sexuality and just, you figure out once and for all that you are the person she's supposed to be with.
Speaking of fetishizing, which do you think is more fetishized in this particular movie? Lesbianism or aerial shots of nondescript cities? Because it's a real back and forth.
I mean, also, this, whoever, was the brains behind this movie, wink, wink, also is really into people taking pictures of each other.
Oh my God, that is the hottest thing that has ever been.
There are at least 4 very long scenes of Pearl just snapping away, just taking pictures.
And we get to see the results, and we never get to see them develop, but we do see some of the finished product. There's so many photographs, and one of them is to a song that I looked up called Call Me Stupid, the Mother May I Sleep with Danger theme, apparently. Very weird musical choices throughout, apparently. All James Franco's latest friend group were put in this.
Again, the soundtrack, very mid-90s.
Yeah, it is an odd thing to go for unless you were going to specifically state that it was happening in the 90s.
Which would have been fine.
It would have been fine.
I don't know why they didn't do that. But again, some movies can do this sort of takes place at a time thing, in a way that creates a sort of sense of audience disorientation.
Sure, yeah.
Some movies do that well. I don't think
this follows thing, yeah.
Right. I don't think this movie's trying to do that.
No, it's just incompetent.
Right. I think it's just, well, how should we dress these vampire girls? Well, how do vampires dress? I don't know. They wear a lot of velvet. I guess.
I guess.
And I think partially it might have been a little bit of a nod to the Lost Boys, which fine, but still, even you got the impression that they dressed like that because they were very old.
Yeah, but we're never told anything like that. And it could be a tossed off thing, like you've been doing this for 100 years, you've been doing this for 50 years, or 20 years, or 10 weeks. I don't fucking care. But it's odd that it's not mentioned at all, and it is very confusing. I do here's a question for you, Gina, and I'm just going to come right out and say it. How many steps do you think the Vampcraft girls get in a day?
A lot.
Their step counters are through the fucking roof. They walk and walk and walk.
Well, does it count like only like a half step if you're going very slowly?
But at the end of the movie, they go very fast. So there's that. The other thing that I had to confront here was, does my mom care enough about me to follow me into the woods?
God, I hope not.
That's a hard no for my mom. Not a fan of the woods, is not following me. Just assuming the worst. She can do that at home. She doesn't have to go on a walkabout to see if that happens. They have if you put on your bingo card, this movie has an extended sex scene in a graveyard.
Of course it does.
Of course it does. But if I said, hey, do you want to watch Mother May I Sleep with Danger? Would that immediately come to mind? Oh, those two are definitely having sex in a graveyard. No.
I did not know this was a vampire movie.
And it's not a secret it's willing to keep for very long. Although some secrets it's very willing to keep. Pearl and Leah are off in the forest, and she goes, well, I'm a Nightwalker. And Leah's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, yeah, Pearl, what the fuck does that mean?
And they just will not say, a vampire. I don't understand when horror movies do that. I don't understand why they try to exist in a universe where these things don't already exist.
Yeah.
Especially if they're talking about Dracula, then they know what a vampire is.
Yes. She's in a fucking class where they're talking about vampires all the goddamn time.
They appear to be talking about vampire literature. That appears to be what their college class is in. Which, when I was in college, I would have loved a class entirely on vampire literature. I would have killed that class. But she's just absolutely puzzled at what do you mean?
Yes. And again, we've confronted this, I don't know how many times, where they decide on this off-market branding for themselves. We're in a Satine situation where the Catholic Church owns the copyright to Satan. They're like, well, we don't want to fuck with them, so let's change it up.
So, I think that there's like, I think of it like The Walking Dead, where for some reason nobody uses the word zombie.
Yeah.
They're walkers. And it's like, what's the difference?
I don't know. I don't honestly, because if they say vampires, everyone's going to say, well, why am I seeing them walking around in the daytime and taking fucking photographs, which is a legitimate goddamn question. But also they have fangs pop out of their fucking mouths.
Nightwalker doesn't make sense either, because they walk around the day.
The day, yeah.
Like we are shown so little about these vampires. We don't even see where they live. They just show up. For all we know, they sleep in like the campus cafeteria. They're just there all the time.
So Bob tries to date rape Leah, ends up getting vamped. But they don't finish the job, and then he becomes a vampire and shows up to opening night of the fucking rehearsal. In the meantime, Leah tells her mom, hey, Bob drugged me at that single mom's Halloween party at the country club.
The country club Halloween party.
We've all been there. Common American experience. And Tori Spelling's like, come on, Bob. Like, what, you believe this fucker over your own daughter about date rape? Like, you're following your own daughter into the goddamn woods. She's actually stating real fucking danger and harm that came to her. And she's like, So that's the movie. Like, really just doesn't do that character any fucking favors. It's nonsensical what happens, how everyone reacts. And then, so opening night of this thing, Leah gets chased off the stage in
the only time that I really genuinely thought this movie was, kind of doing something was like this sword fight where Bob's like gradually turning into a vampire. Which I kind of like that. If the whole movie had kind of had that absurd tone to it, I would have liked it a lot more.
It suddenly becomes something akin to a Fright Night. And then you're like, okay. Like, that's a great movie to riff off of. Like, there's tons of ways you could have that sort of thing with a pronounced queerness to it that would have made this infinitely more interesting. And they just fail. It's a first draft of what an actual movie would be. And they just don't have the time or budget to actually go for it. And as a result, we have this weird chase where suddenly vampires are fast. And Pearl comes out of the shadows and just rips out a throat, claws a chicken across the face, gouges another girl's eyes out. This seems to stun but not kill them. Meanwhile, Leah clanks Bob in the face multiple times with a gargoyle from a broken headstone. And why no one picks up a fucking stick and starts stabbing motherfuckers in the heart? I just don't fucking understand. And then they're like, make me a vampire. And she does. And you think movie over. And then the movie has, again, the balls to go 1 year later. And you see that Bob, the fucking date rapist, is now the head vampire. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
And they're still haunting college campuses.
Right. Looking for Bob types.
And I guess so now they're going to kill girls. I mean, great. Hey, girl power, I mean,
this worked out great for everyone. Like, what is the fucking lesson I come away? Like, what is the morality of this?
We didn't mention that Tori Spelling ends up getting killed. And Leah's, kind of upset about it, but, she's going to stick with Pearl anyway.
Well, I think Pearl actually cares for her.
Well, yeah, she does. But I mean, Pearl also was, sort of kind of, connected to her mother getting killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if you're going to be in a relationship with someone that you presumably are going to spend a literal eternity with, that's something you're going to need to work out in couples therapy.
I don't think either of these two are great decision makers. I don't know how this works out, but I hope they're doing great in Collegeburg, USA, wherever the fuck they ended up.
Well, again, we don't know. Like, not only do we not know why it's so gravely important, no pun intended, that Leah be brought into this coven, it's also not entirely clear why Pearl keeps dragging her heels about it.
Yeah.
Because we don't, I mean, are we supposed to think that they're evil eventually? Because, the movie kind of sets up that, no, not really, because they're killing bad people.
Yeah.
What is
they're like Batman.
What is the problem here that she doesn't want to turn Leah? I mean, Leah seems very into her, so I don't know what the reluctance is, because they never explain it.
Leah does not want to live a life where she's out of pants. She wants very tight, low-cut pants, and she sees all these girls, they're all in dresses. She's just like, that's not the life I want to live. I think. Fuck if I know. It's very confusing. We can't even play Choose Your Own Death Venture because it's up for debate whether or not anyone actually dies.
Well, I guess the guy at the girl, the vampire girl from the beginning. And
so do you want to be bit by a vampire or bit by a fucking vampire? I don't understand why he dies and Bob doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Why does Tori Spelling die and Bob does? This movie doesn't understand what it's trying to do. And so therefore it takes all the fun out of our fucking little game. All the fun we have is just making fun of it. And sorry, kids, that's what we have to do. So that is it for today. Fun assignment for everyone. We need your questions for Scream. We're going to wrap up the Scream franchise. We're going to do one of our little wrap-ups that we usually do before we wrap up a season. So we need your Scream questions. Like, what didn't we talk about? What are your questions you want to hear about from us? We're going to do this before Scream 2022 comes out. And then when it does, unless COVID wipes out everything, we're going to see it. We each have our tickets where we're very safely separated from other people, and we're going to watch it and review it the week after that. But we need your questions first. So if you can hit us up on Twitter, the Facebook group, Instagram, anywhere we are, hit up Gina's Twitter. You get people to talk to you all the time. People ignore me like I'm a leper.
Oh, talk to Patrick. He's a lot of fun. He's one of my favorite people.
There's 5.5 years of evidence to the contrary of how fun I am. But please reach out to us with your Scream questions. We'd love to hear it. Rate and review us on iTunes, or Spotify now allows you to rate us. You have to listen to an episode all the way through, which I think is a very good idea. But if you're listening to the show here, guess what? You're almost to the end. You have to listen to the end. And then it allows you to give us a rating. We'd love to be rated by you. And, tell us what your favorite kill is in any of the films that we've covered, or even one that we haven't. And we'll talk about here on the air. That's our solemn promise to you, the Kill by Kill listener. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. A recent review I did is of the very good The Lost Daughter with Olivia Colman, Dakota Johnson, Jesse Buckley. Good stuff. And it's kind of a horror movie in its own way. It's a horror of being a parent. And at the end of the month, I will be covering safely from my little home this year's Sundance Festival. And I am on Twitter at Gina Does Things, and I'm on there too often, so feel free to seek me out. I probably will answer you.
Do it today, people. Check it out. What's happening next week. More Scream talk, and then Scream 2022, and then season 3 is over, but there's so much more coming your way. We will pick back up with After Dark after season 4 begins. And what will we be covering? What franchise will it be? What franchises might it be? Who's to say? You will find out when we do on Kill by Kill. Until then, don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.